All right, Sulayman and I, welcome back to Techfall Tabletalks.
Thank you for having me, Julius. I'm excited to be back on, man.
Yeah, yeah. And for those of you that don't know, I got a bunch of episodes on Spotify, so the ones that aren't on YouTube are on there. Suleiman was on here before when he was in high school. Now you wound up getting a crazy opportunity. You went to Kiski High School in Pennsylvania, and you became a couple-time prep All-American. Talk about that experience.
Yeah, I think being able to go to Kiski was a real blessing. My parents were really supportive of it, and I ended up getting like a full like academic scholarship, so it wasn't really coming out of like a pocket. So there was really no reason not to go. I got to leave the city a little bit and got to explore and see what was going on outside of New York City, and then I also got to wrestle in probably the best area to wrestle in America, Western Pennsylvania. And honestly, that experience was crazy. Um, I think, like I definitely I needed to go somewhere and be challenged and like get punched in the mouth a little bit and then kind of bounce back and get better. And I think that really happened my freshman year where I came in with like a lot of confidence and then, I dealt with a lot of losses. And then like that was the first time I ever came short of like all Americaning. Like I lost in the blood rounds that year to Sam Cartella, really good kid. That kid's a really good wrestler. Shout out to Sam. Um, and like that was like I like never felt worse until recently, but like that experience, and then I ended up All Americaning my next year, and then I did an All American again, and then All American my senior year. Like being a prep All American, it's cool. I think it was amazing that it happened, and it was a real testament of like how much work I put in to get better as a wrestler. But I definitely think that looking back on how my high school career finished and what it could have been, like it one thing I do like regret is just like the lack of self-confidence and lack of my belief in my talent. But like those are things in the past, and you can't really like harp on them too much. And the only thing I can do is like kind of just make that adjustment now and try to not make the same mistakes that I made back in the past by not believing in my ability to be able to compete on that level.
Right, right. Now, obviously, speaking of all of that, you notice the contrast between wrestling in New York City and wrestling in spots where everyone's starting from like when they're like 5 years old. So you notice the contrast with the technique and the coaching and such. But what about just the environment? Because for those of you that don't know, Suleiman grew up in Hunts Point in the Bronx. I'm not
Yeah.
that far away. You know, we grew up in like some rough stuff. So for you to get the opportunity, like you're the only one in our neighborhoods that goes to Columbia. Like that's so like. But even with the boarding school at Pennsylvania, what was it like just being there, being out of the hood, being out the ghetto, and just like getting this whole new experience? Was that part of why you were kind of like nervous at first?
Um, it was part of the reason. Like, yeah, like I had to make new friends. None of my friends from middle school came over, and I was really far away from my parents. I was really far away from Coach Webb, and Coach Webb was one of my like he's still my biggest mentor. And like it was different. Like it's definitely not New York City. It's like my school was in the middle of nowhere. There was like almost like nothing nearby. There was probably the only thing nearby was like a gas station, and like you can really like there's only so much you can do going to the gas. There's a gas station and a subway, and like you don't want to eat subway all the time, so you limited it to the dining hall food. But the one some really good things about it was I got to well my school was all boys. Um, that was part of like a big reason I wanted to go. Um, and I think my after my freshman year, my school got really diverse, and I got to meet people who were from different backgrounds. Like thinking about my senior year when I graduated compared to my freshman year, where my freshman year I came in and there were only two black kids in my grade, and then I ended up being like the only one after that. And so by my end of my senior year, there were like, there was a very, there's a massive chunk of black kids. And then there was a lot of kids from Spain. There was like a lot of kids from South America. And there was a lot of kids from Europe as well. And like my school did a good job of like mixing the pot and getting all the kids to just like, hang out with each other and get, it was a really small tool. It's like 180 kids. I knew everyone by first name. I knew everyone by face. Everyone knew me. And so I feel like that environment, like of where I went to high school, really shaped who I am. And I think, I don't know, I didn't go to school in New York City, so I can't really speak on New York City schooling, but that like environment of being all boys, it being a really small school, you like your teachers live on campus with you. Your teachers are also like your athletic coaches, and you spend so much time with everyone that is in that environment that it's like you build so many good connections, and it truly did feel like a brotherhood by the time I graduated. Like everyone that I graduated with, I like to like I will like those are my brothers, and like like at first it was an adjustment, and it's hard finding friends, and especially people that are not from the city, or people have like who don't really have an idea of how it is growing up in a city. But after I got adjusted, I also had a student who was also from New York City. His name was Alex. He was in the same program that I did, and he kind of like paved the way a little bit for me to go and be successful at Kiski. But once I got adjusted, everything started like going well. My teachers really liked me. I really liked my all my teachers. I liked all my friends. And I liked almost everyone at the school. There was really no conflicts at all, and like there were tough times, yeah, for sure. But overall, when I look back on that experience and the kind of environment that was fostered, just being there, I really have nothing but good things to say about it.
That's great. That's great that overall there's a positive outlook. And it's real cool to notice that they increase the diversity of it because I'll just say it like this. If you say Jordan Burroughs is your favorite wrestler, or you're going to show your wrestling room a bunch of clips of Jordan Burroughs, you might want to get some other people that look like him in the room.
Yeah.
Like it can't say that he's your favorite or just show a bunch of clips of him and then everybody in that room looks the same.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Yeah.
wrestling should be more diverse, 100%. So now you have a similar dynamic at Columbia because I went to watch you 3 times at Columbia University. And for those listening, shout out to Sulayman because I did not know I would be allowed to go watch Ivy League wrestling for free. I
It
randomly
is
saw
free. Everyone can come. We want everyone to come. Everyone
everyone,
should be coming to Columbia's matches.
so high schoolers, go to Columbia University. High schoolers in New York City, everybody in Beat the Streets right now, go to Columbia for their dual meets. Right, going and watching wrestling that will help you out so much because that's something me and Suleiman did with Beat the Streets, obviously. But if you just go on your own, watch a bunch of college wrestling, and you can go to Columbia. It's right there. I'm
It's right there.
telling you,
It's like right up the block.
yeah. And if you can go to LIU Post, it's not that far away. Go to
It's kind of
Hofstra, it's
far,
not
but
that
it's not
far,
that far.
right?
Yeah.
Like if you want to make the trip to Cornell, go ahead. You know, watch wrestling. It'll really help. So I went and I watched Suleiman 3 times, and I'll talk about the wrestling in a sec. But in terms of the environment, there was you, and everybody else didn't look like you. So in relation to what you said about Kiski, how was the environment like at Columbia, being the only black kid on the team, essentially, at least only started?
Um, I I can't really complain. I feel like a lot of my teammates, they all look after me. Like my sophomore class especially, it's very tight knit, and we go to bat for each other. Um, like the wrestling team here at Columbia, it's like we have a new coaching staff. We have Donnie, Buxton, Seb, and Greg Bolsack. Um, I would really just like say it's more than anything, it's really a merit of how hard you work and how much effort you put in, rather that's kind of distinguishes where you are on the team. Like everyone that likes to work hard and put in work is gonna like everyone else that likes to work hard and put in work. And that's kind of like the culture that our new coaching staff is bringing in as well. Like they're all about just working hard and putting in effort, and then they're really big on self confidence and believing in yourself. And I think like because of that, our team's going to make many jumps in the next coming years. Like even this year, like from this beginning of the year to like the end of the year, I really feel like there was a massive change because it's difficult when you're going through a college season already, and so like there's so many other factors. Like my coach says this. He says it's really hard to wrestle in the Ivy League. Like everyone thinks it's really like it is really hard to wrestle in the Big Ten. but it is hard to be a student athlete in Ivy League because there are so many restrictions. There's so much schoolwork. The classes are really hard. It's like the professors sometimes are not very understanding. And it's just like there's so many things that you have to face, like to be a student athlete in an Ivy League. And a lot of students on our wrestling team also are career focused, and they're doing internships during the season. They're doing exams while we're traveling, and it's like it's sometimes it's hard to not get lost in any of that. But I think the good thing that my team does really do is they know, like I said, they look out for each other. Everyone has everyone's backs. Everyone, if we're all we try to take classes together to make sure that we all help each other out. And, we study together. We spend a lot of time together. We play a lot of like we don't play a lot of like video games, but we play like in-person games where like we're doing a lot of talking. And so I think doing things like that has helped our bonding. Most people are not from New York City. And so it's I've had the opportunity to be able to bring that New York City culture, that New York City flair to Columbia wrestling, and try my best to represent New York City as best as I can. Um, and I hope I'm doing a good job. You can ask them, but I try my best to represent New York City as best as I can, because it only takes one person to make like a good impression on everyone else to like open the door for everyone else to come in. You know what I mean?
Yeah, definitely know what you mean. Yeah, and you are. I mean, I don't need to ask. I want to watch you. You know, you definitely representing real well. Yeah, in victory or defeat, definitely representing us real well. But in terms of like the tight knitness and environment of the team and stuff, there's a mutual friend of ours on the team, Nick Fine. He's
Like
really, really
fine.
good. Five NCAAs. So talk about your friendship with Nick, because I see you guys talking and stuff, in between the matches of the doing this.
Yeah, Nick is like when Nick was one of the first guys on my visit to Columbia. Nick was like one of my hosts, and so I got to hang out with Nick a lot. Um, but Nick, when I first came in, I looked up to Nick just because he was one of those guys that had like that confidence, that swagger, and had that, like I said, like he knew himself. And I think like you need people like that in the room to help the younger freshmen like know what they need to do to like get to where they need to go. I think Nick is a two-time NCAA qualifier now. And like when I watch him in the room, he's always wrestling hard. He always gets the best partners, and he's always trying to win. He is like Nick Fine will try to win by any means. And that's one of the qualities that I do really like about him. Um, and then also we also have like guys like Aaron Azaroff, who's also like he's very similar to Nick Fine. Like they're like almost they're fruits of the same tree. But Aaron, both guys are like really nice people. They all wrestle hard, and they're really self confident. And I think that's the number one thing that I think like I take away from Nick Fine. He's confident in himself, and he's like he's unapologetic for being himself. And that's something I admire just from like watching him wrestle in matches and also just being around him every single day.
Yeah, I met Nick at a Beat the Streets clinic a while back. They brought us to Princeton, and I was hanging out with him in Beat the Streets, New England, because that's where he's from, Sugar Island. And
Yeah,
yeah,
he told me about it. Yeah, I told me about it on one of our like drives back from I forget where we were going, but he was like, yeah, like he remembers you, and yeah, that's your boy. Like he was like, yeah, that's like you're his guy.
yeah. Shout out to Nick Fine. Yeah, I definitely agree. And just getting to the NCAAs, man, it's hard to
It's a big
get there,
deal.
and it's hard to the match is there. I was really rooting for Nick the whole time. I saw that pin he got, but then just being at that tournament, I think it's even harder for the Ivy League guys. You got all that schoolwork, you have a lot more on your plate than everyone else, and then you get to nationals, and it's like it's a real grind. It's not some regular tournament. So, what do you think is like? I don't know, like you don't go to Cornell, so you won't know how they do it. But what do you think is gonna get Columbia to get over the hump?
That's a good question. I think like one thing about wrestling, it's very obvious that no one cares what you're going through. Like like no one cares how hard our school day is, how hard it is to wrestle in Ivy League. none of that really matters. Your confidence doesn't matter at all. You just got to go out there and compete every single time. And I think like I talk about our coaching staff a lot, because I really do love our coaching staff. One thing, they are harping on Donnie does a great job of lining out like the base principles that you need to follow to reach your next goal. And Donnie is like Donnie. If you ever met Donnie and you ever had a conversation with Donnie and you're just hanging out with him, like you notice like that man is like on it, like his self confidence, his self belief in himself is on another level. And one thing like he said to us during the season, that like really resonated with me and like helped me see like what type of competitor he is. He was like he in his whole life he never thought he was going to lose at anything, and it's like we ideally we would all like to think like that, but I can't stress how like I think like ridiculous it is. Like it's not ridiculous, but it's like it's kind of like it's crazy that like his entire life in everything he's done, he's always thought he's gonna win. And I think implementing that mentality in our wrestling, and then also is not afraid to attack and open up and just wrestle our style will take us to the next level. I think we're already on that track where in the room is like really competitive. Everyone wrestles hard. Everyone like does the right thing. We just have to go out there in our competition and implement our will. And that's something that I'm working on with Donnie and Buxton and Seb, and the rest of our team is working on it with our coaching staff. But the number one thing that they always do harp on is our self belief. You always have to believe in yourself. That is like the key from taking you to the next level. Like if you believe wholeheartedly in your technique, eventually it will break through, no matter what. Like, and I think that's the number one that's the number one quality I can see from Donnie. That's the number one quality I can see from Sebastian. That's the number one quality I can see from Buxton. That's the number one quality I see from Greg. Like all those guys, they believe in themselves so much and they're so competitive, and they like it's wrestling is like a battle of wills, and their will is greater than like their will to win is greater than like anything else. And so they're trying to pass that down to our team. And this year was only the start. We had 5 NCAA qualifiers. I think we only allocated I think we only allocated like 2 or 3 spots, but we had 5 qualifiers, and we could have probably had around 7. Like I possibly if we would have won some of those matches on the back end. But it's just like you know we're already on the track, and I think we're gonna get there soon.
And I noticed when Pritzlaff is coaching, like I've seen him in videos and stuff. I've met him one time, but he was more reserved because he was talking to high school kids. But I've seen him coach. I've seen him like in videos on full and stuff like that. The Nick Sirianno documentary, he's all over that, obviously. But like when he's coaching, he's like letting you wrestle. He's like real reserved, kind of like Kel Sanderson, just letting you wrestle. He's not like Terry and Tom Brand. He's not yada yada yada. Keep talking, keep talking. He's one of the ones that just real reserved, lets you wrestle. I really like watching the dual meets. I don't hear him talking that much.
Donnie, yeah, I mean, yeah, like I feel like I don't really know. I feel like that might be just be how he coaches. He wrestles with us sometimes, and he's a really tough dude to wrestle. I don't wrestle him. I don't wrestle Donnie, but the 65 pounders, the 74 pounders, anyone. If you're not heavier than Donnie, then you're probably in for a long practice. It's because Donnie, he's an animal when he wrestles. But I I can't. I'm trying to think of he's when he's coaching, he's very knowledgeable. So I think you just got to listen to him. Like I trust him wholeheartedly whenever I'm wrestling. That's because I know he's gonna put me in the best position to win.
Yeah, and in every video, every time I've heard him talk, he definitely knows what he's talking about. There was an interview he did right after he got the job at Columbia. He didn't officially go in yet, but he had an interview with Goodell, with Gene Zanetti from Wrestling Mindset, and they
Mm.
asked him what kind of wrestler would you want, someone who's fast or strong, and they both said they'd rather someone who's strong because if you get in a bad position, you could muscle your way out of it. As and if you're wrestling someone that's faster than you can nullify them and just stop them in their tracks. And speaking of a strong guy, Richard Fetterman, he looks insane. And he, like, watching him wrestle and all that, he looks like one of the stronger guys on the team. Do you interact
Richard.
with him much?
Yeah, Richard's in my Dutch class actually. So I spend a lot of time with him. I have class with him like twice a week, since like September, since like the beginning of the year. But Richard, I wrestled him a couple times, and Richard's very very strong. He works those underhooks a lot. He does Greco. He's on the Greco world team. He's going to Pan Am's I think next week. Um, but like I think more than like Richard's strength, like what Richard's really really good at is wrestling at a high pace. Like Richard's pace is unbelievable, and he will like get you like he drags you to the deep end and then he burgers you. Like Richard is like it's really hard wrestling Richard. It's, even in a drill, he's gonna try to break you, and that's one of the key qualities that you need as a wrestler. You got to have like that tenacity, and I think it paid off for Richard this year. Like, there was like a lot of like unseen events that happened throughout the year. He was having a good season all throughout the year at 49, and then he got moved up to 57. And rather than complain and cry about it, Richard made something work and qualified at 57. Like, that's the type of like that's the type of person that Richard is. He works hard. He's always grinding. Like, there's really Richard is one of those kids that he does the right things. He does everything right, and thankful, like I'm super happy for him this year that everything panned out and he was able to qualify for nationals for the first time.
Yeah, is he young? Like, what grade is he in?
He's a junior.
Okay, so he's got a year left. But something
Yeah.
I noticed about like his mindset when he's getting ready to wrestle, like he has this straight like David Goggins esque like aura, like he's just ready to destroy his opponent. Like he's straight like straight face, like there's no emotion. He's just go out there and compete.
Yeah, there's Richard's like one of those guys like when you wrestle him and you finish wrestling with him, there's like probably like marks like on your like arch like arms like your triceps, like on your neck too. He'll like collar you really hard, go start digging underhook. He's like Richard just like he doesn't stop, just goes and goes and goes and goes. And win or lose, if he goes out there and competes, like he put his best effort out there. He tried his hardest. And so like Rich, that's a quality that you love and you love to see in every wrestler.
Yeah, absolutely. So now looking at the dual meet you guys had against Princeton, you're wrestling on Columbia's side. Xavier Giles is wrestling on the other side. I think this is the first time we've had two New York City wrestlers starting, and you're both on opposite teams, but you're both in Ivy League schools. That's
Yeah.
insane. And you're both
Yeah.
from the Bronx, right? For anyone
Yeah.
that's not from New York City, the Bronx is on the bottom of the totem pole for a lot of things. So a couple black kids, starting lineup, Ivy League schools from the Bronx, that's a big deal.
Yeah.
So how big do you think that was for that just to happen?
I think it's a big deal, especially for beat the streets and other New York City kids that want to use wrestling, that want to pursue wrestling. I think you know wrestling is a means to a beginning. That's something that Coach Webb always instilled in me. But that doesn't mean that you can't take wrestling as far as you can take it. And I think for any New York City kids that are having doubts of whether they can wrestle on the next level or how good can they get at wrestling. No, you have like two great examples, and like me and Xavier, of two kids who like yeah, we left New York City, but I mean we're New York City wrestlers at heart. Like we are beat the streets guys. We started out through the middle school, like the junior league system. We wrestled cities, and we wrestled all the same tournaments. We'd go to the same national tournaments. We This is all the things that like you know every kid does in your beat the streets now. We did all the same things, but I think like I don't know what I really don't know. There's really nothing that separates us. I feel like whatever I did to get really good at wrestling, anyone else can do and be get good at wrestling. Um, and it's doable. It's hard, but it's doable. You have to make a lot of sacrifices, um, but it pays off. And it makes me. I'm hopeful that more kids like look at me and Xavier, and you have Umar going to Drexel, and that's a big deal for me. That's a big deal for us too, just because like Umar. you know Umar. Umar's a knucklehead. So, you know, him going to Drexel and wrestling and, you know, like he's gonna be with Chad Walsh, one of my best coaches I've ever had. And seeing Umar and how far he's came, because I was with him since middle school. That kid was he was something. He was a handful, but he's grown and he's developing. He's got really good at wrestling, and you know I'm glad that he's taking advantage of all his opportunities. And hopefully there's more beat the streets Ivy League matchups. Hope there's more beat the streets matchups just in general in Division 1 wrestling as we go on. But yeah, it might be the first time ever, but I hope it's not the last time.
Yeah, and speaking of first time ever, we're waiting for the first NYC wrestler to become a Division One NCAA qualifier. We almost had it with Lenny, but we're waiting now. You, Xavier, Kingston, Daniel Silva is coming into Columbia
Kingston's coming in,
this
yeah,
year. No? So
yeah,
waiting.
yeah. I was close this year, but it's close this year, but next year, I'm ready. I'm ready. It'll happen. It'll happen, and then we'll have our first NCAA All American for New York City as well. I believe, and then our first national champ. It's all gonna happen.
Definitely, definitely. So last question here. Really, like with Columbia, what do you think's gonna happen next year? Because Nick's coming back, right?
Nick's coming back. Aaron's coming back. Jack Waymar is coming back.
Richard's coming back.
Richard's coming back. Kai's coming
Chavez.
back. Uh, Caesar Alvin.
See, yeah. Oh, my fault. Alves, yeah. Caesar.
Yeah, Caesar's coming back. We're only losing our 74, and that's it. That's it. We're only losing our 174 pounder, I
So
think.
the relationship you guys have with the RTC, I saw Kendall Cross at the dual meets, right? The fact you got an
Yeah,
Olympic gold medalist with you guys at the dual meets, and for anyone that doesn't know who Kendall Cross is, that guy Kurt Angle, yeah, he was on that same team and also got a gold medal with him. So that guy you watched in WWE, Kendall Cross knows him. So it's like having that with you like that, and you're in the RTC, you get to be around that, like, and now you got Pritzlaff at the helm. He's going to recruit his guys and stuff to come in the next couple of years. So, what do you think is going to happen with Columbia? Do you think you guys are going to be able to compete some of the higher level teams?
for sure. I like it's we are turning a page right now, and it's the first year with our new coaching staff, and we fell short of some of our goals. But like one thing that my coaching staff does not do is give up. Like things will change before they give up. Things will change before they give up, no matter what. So like our goal is to be a competitive team and hope like you know I, there's always like those like next level goals that those like high achiever goals that there might be a little bit out of reach right now, but we can work towards them. And one of those goals is winning a trophy at the NCAA. That's a big deal. We've never won a trophy ever. I'm not sure if we've ever placed top 10 in NCAAs. We've never had a national champ. We we've like had six All Americans. And like it's it's like knowing those things where Zach Tonelli used to say a lot that we are living history right now at Columbia. And he wasn't wrong last year. We had our first All American in a while, Lennox Wolak. And, I think like we are going to be a competitive team. This year we were a competitive team. Like some duels got away from us. We went 6-7 in the regular season. Some duels got away from us, and the score sheets sometimes don't represent how well we wrestled. But I mean, we lost to Princeton in the duel, and then we placed higher than them at Ivies. Um, Cornell is going to be a tough team to beat, of course, but like I truly believe and I trust our coaching staff, and I trust everything that our coaches do. That like by the time next year comes, we're going to be even, but we're going to have jumped levels throughout the summer, and we'll be able to compete at another caliber next year. And it all comes with work, and there's no doubt in my mind that we work really really hard. And then it comes with belief, and that work that we put in is going to solidify our belief, and how much we put into every match. Like it's like not how much we put into every match, but that belief is gonna solidify where we are. And once we start winning matches, it's gonna get normal and it's gonna become the culture. And that's how you build like a winning culture. Like everyone has to be on the same page. And yeah, like right now, we have some seniors graduating. It's awkward for a new coach to come in, like, because they didn't recruit most of the guys and they got to know everybody. But we have a senior class graduating, we have a freshman class that's being recruited by Donnie coming in, and so we're positive about it. We believe that within the next few years we'll have a bunch of All Americans, and we'll hopefully be a top 20, top 15 team in the country. And that's a big thing for me to say, but I truly believe in my coaching staff. I truly believe in everything that Donnie's trying to do, everything that Buxton's trying to do, and there's no doubt in my mind that whatever they set their mind to, whatever goals that they have, um, you know, we will accomplish. And that's rooted from having guys on our team that will go to the next level, that will wrestle, that will go to war for Donnie. Like that's the type of culture that we're building, and we care about each other. There's a lot I could say. There's so much I could say, but you know it's going to war for the coaches, having each other's backs, and just we just have to be competitive. That's it. We're close, but we got to make it to the next level.
All right. Yeah, just gotta have belief if that can happen. All right. So,
Sure,
hey, so I've got. Thanks for coming on, Silly.
no problem. Thank you for having me, Julius.